So good morning, everyone, and do thank you for joining us. This is Check It Out, new books for ages 0 to 18. My name is Samantha Bowers. I'm the consultant for continuing education at the State Library of Iowa. I'm seeing folks in chat, which is good. You know this if you've been with us before. If I don't know your first and last name, you might see a chat from me asking, and so it's fine to reply to me and let me know. I know when you're in as a participant in this webinar space, you don't have a ton of insight into what is going on, but we'll get there. One other fun thing is that, as Angie mentioned, we do have an auto transcription in this newest version of Zoom. So if you drive down towards the bottom of your Zoom screen, you should see a live transcript button and you can choose show subtitle or not. If you do not see that, you can leave the meeting, upgrade your Zoom and come back, or just get it upgraded before next time together, because this will be something we'll be using. I think it's a nice feature in more ways than one. And so I think that's everything I wanted to say. Angie, anything I'm forgetting?
Just the general thing that Sam usually sometimes says about, I do sometimes hold up books. So
Yes.
if you want to adjust your screen so that you can see the whole of the book, I don't do that often. And I sometimes try to have the slides with the illustrations on them instead, but sometimes I do physically hold up the item. And so you might want to adjust your view so that you can see the full picture of that. But otherwise, that's it for me. So I will not really be looking at chat, but Sam kind of keeps an eye on it. And here we go, I think. Is that anything else?
Let's do it.
Okay, let me get into the right screen though. You don't want to all see my email. So, okay. Are we seeing everything we need to be seeing?
I can see the slides.
Everybody, welcome to Check It Out. As Sam mentioned, I am Angie Manfredi. I'm the Youth Services Consultant for the State Library of Iowa. And this is my little introduction slide. As always, it has my contact information on it. Please feel free to reach out with me if you have questions, if you want to dig into something. It might take me a day or two or sometimes longer to get back to you, but I do always get back in touch. As always, I like to start with a fun picture at this part. So the fun picture I'm starting with today is a picture of the world's greatest food, which is a green chili cheeseburger from a roadside diner in the middle of nowhere, New Mexico, which is where I am coming from you today. I am in New Mexico. I traveled here once my vaccination was fully effective to visit my family and friends who I had not seen in 19 months, a long time, 16, 17 months since I had seen everyone. So I am coming to you from the fantastic land of enchantment in New Mexico. And I have been lucky enough to eat so much green chili, the world's most perfect food since I got here. If you have never had a green chili cheeseburger, you owe it to yourself to someday come to New Mexico and have a bite or two. This one was so hot, it burned my mouth. And my friends who didn't live here were like, what is that? And that's how you know it's the perfect green chili cheeseburger. This is my short agenda slide. What this session covers, if you've never been here with us before, or if it's been a while, this is an overview of new books published this month in April of 2021 for ages 0 to 18. We are going to be looking at my highlights and favorites. I never claim that this is everything published, and I can never get it all in anyway, because we only have an hour. So what I'm looking at here are highlights and some that I personally, I think are really outstanding in the field, or will circulate really well. And we, of course, base that on my many years expertise in this field and as an in-service librarian for many years. The goal here is to not look at not just look at big six publishers and bestsellers. I'm not going to tell you about celebrity books that are on the top of the New York Times bestseller list. And along the way, I'm going to give you some trends, some book talking, things that we're noticing and publishing, things that you might have noticed in your library about, well, these kind of books are really going out, or I'm looking for more types of these books. I'm trying to develop this area of my collection. We're going to really look at ways that this can strengthen your collection. We're going to go over a little bit about how I can learn more. And the part I love the best, I don't get to see the chat, but I would love it if you shared your excitement for titles, or, oh, I think that would be really good, or that sounds like a story time title that would be awesome, in the chat, because I really want you to talk about this with each other, recommend books to each other. I really want this to begin a conversation about your collections and the way that you use titles with patrons. This is our 4th month doing it, so I would really love and appreciate if in the chat, any of you could could talk about, if you've attended these sessions before, titles that you might have purchased because of them and what you've noticed about them or how you've used them. And I know that this is a weird time with our collection and circulation and how patrons are visiting, but the other reason we have these sessions is because we believe deeply that your collection matters. And we believe that the collection tells the story of your library and can help accurately reflect your community. And we believe that investing in your collection pays back in huge ways. And so that's the other reason we want to continue these conversations. And we really want to hear you talking about what is working and what you want more of. It lets us understand what's going on in other libraries, and it gives us clues on how we can develop our own collections, and we can work on strengthening our own sections. So I would love to hear from you. And also, I live on your feedback, and also your feedback guides everything I do. So I really want to know how and if these sessions are helpful, how I can make them better. We are going to give you, a chance to offer us that feedback, but I would love to have it in the chat with each other. And the last thing I will say before we start is, you will get a copy of these slides. So do not feel like you have to write every single one of these titles down. I forgot the cover. You'll get a copy of this slide deck when this session is over. And at the end, there are 2 slides that have just a title list of all the titles we've covered. The titles are broken down by not ages, because all picture books are for everyone. We don't put ages on books. We can talk about suggested ages, but we don't put ages on books. But they're broken down by their kinds, and I mix up the orders every month. And this month we are starting with readers and chapter books because I have the most of them and I have a bunch of them. And so I decided to start with them this month. Okay, everybody, pull up your cup of coffee, settle on in, turn on the transcript for a good long laugh, take a deep breath, and here we go. So this is spring cakes. Oh, Sam, I forgot to turn my background off. I always turn my background off so that you can fully see everything. So let's see. How's everybody doing? Are you all thinking about green chili? I certainly am. No background. You're going to just see my sister's piano. That's where I am right now at my sister's house. So you're just going to see my sister's piano. Ta-da! There's my sister's piano. Okay. Back to sharing, I think. There we go. Are we still sharing? We're still sharing.
You are still sharing.
Okay.
I'm seeing it. There we go. Full screen.
There we go. Okay. So this is Spring Cakes by Miranda Harmon. This is a title in a line called I Like to Read Comics. It's from Holiday House. They only have 4 or 5 titles right now. It's about a bunch of really cute cats that want to bake cakes. It's very simple. You see the big bold line of illustration here. You can tell my chickens are happy because their eggs are so colorful. Goodbye. We need wild strawberries from the meadow. It's by the creek. So short declarative sentences. This is the thing we're seeing. This kind of imprint is the kind of thing we're seeing a lot of publishers start right now. It's an introduction to comics that is both a mix of comic and graphic and early reader. So that kind of combination of form for that reader who is just exploring the panel format, but also really thrives on dialogue and really thrives on that early reader format. Here they are. Look how big Here They Are is. What are you doing with my special strawberries? We need strawberries for spring cake. Spring cakes. Well, if you bring me a cake, then you can take some strawberries. So, I think there's only 4 titles in this line right now, but they will circulate really heavy. And they're also a great way to introduce and merge these 2 formats. And we'd love to see publishers responding to patron demand and creating these kind of things. And so these are also, they build confidence in reading while they also get kids hooked on comics. And as we know, being hooked on comics is like the best thing you can be. So this is our readers and chapter book section. But one of the things I really want to talk about in this because we have a lot of really great ones, is I really want for those of you to think about, if you're in a smaller library, especially, but everywhere, about the condition of your nonfiction collection. And I want to stress to you that I know the impulse is to have 1,000 nonfiction books, but if you have 5 nonfiction books in a certain subject and they're new and beautiful and browse-worthy, that really is better than 500 old ones from the 50s that smell and kids don't want to look at. So this is Reptiles Everywhere. It's illustrated by the very famous German illustrator Britta Teckentrup. And this is a combination. This is the third in her collaboration series. There's also Fish Everywhere and Bugs Everywhere. And Bugs Everywhere, like my niece is obsessed with that. You can see it focuses on the illustration, but it also has actual text. So like, beware a hungry coral blue snake. Its bright orange head and tail are a warning that it's very dangerous, with venom that can kill in minutes. Luckily, its favorite food isn't people, but other deadly snakes. And then we see the picture of it right there. And so this would go in the 500s at your library. It's not a picture book. And so I really want you to just think about ways that you can refresh sections in your library. And this reptiles, fish, and bugs, they're really amazing. And the combination of text and illustration is really excellent. And that goes with, William is my husband. Many of you know that. You've heard me mention him 1,000 times. This is a title that we were obsessed with, Masters of Disguise by Mark Martin, Camouflaging Creatures and Magnificent Mimics. This is so amazing. So it tells you about these animals that are mimics. It describes how and why they mimic. And then when you turn the page, it says, a variety of disguises. In the shallows and estuaries of the ocean, you might find stingrays, manta rays, great barracuda, sailfin snapper, and orange spine unicorn fish. But can you find the 8 mimic octopus? And so each one, it tells you how the animal camouflages. And then the next page after, it says, can you find 11 of them? Can you find 10 of them? We had such a great time going through this book, trying to pick out the animals. I loved this combination of this science text along with then that interactive element. And so again, that's the kind of thing that like this really in that 500 section, a newer title, really well illustrated, that kind of detail of combination of look and find, but also the scientific explanation of it. We had a really great time with this book. So this is Masters of Disguise, Camouflaging Creatures and Magnificent Mimics by Mark Martin. And how about that for some alliteration? Okay, this is Mars's. So this is from Suzanne Slade. And what I love about this uses photographs of Mars taken by the HiRISE. Let me read from my notes. High resolution imaging science experiment camera, which has been orbiting and photographing Mars since 2006. This is not text heavy, but for your kids, your STEM kids, these are actual high resolution images taken of the surface of Mars. And you can kind of look at the way she's talking about the text. Mars is the big text on one side. Mars is buried bedrock, which is often hidden behind the loose fine-grained material covering the surface of Mars, creates a solid foundation for this magnificent planet. Those kids who love STEM, they're interested in what's going on with the NASA missions to Mars. And the fact that this is taken, these are high-res pictures of Mars. That looks like something you could take with your cell phone, and it is the surface of Mars. So many STEM connections here, and so many ways you could kind of build from that. The whole book is full of images like this. I think this would make a great and really unique choice for a story walk title. I think there's so many ways you could it might not be the first choice for a story walk title, but I think there's just so much great stuff in it. So again, these are picture books, but they're longer picture books. So this is We Are Still Here by Tracy Sorrell, illustrated by Franny Lasek. It is the companion volume to their first book together, We Are Grateful. Tracy is a citizen of the Cherokee Nation, and this is an amazing book. I feel like this is a book that every library should have. And the frame of how she set it up, which is a group of kids from different nations are doing presentations of elements of Native American history and also Native American life today. And the way that she set it up is that each kid, as part of the Indigenous Day project, is doing their own presentation, and that's how you're learning about it from each text. So you can see here that the actual table of contents is their presentation. So it's a really approachable, engaging way that really centers kids' voices in these Indigenous issues, and also talks about it with like an honest way that kids would approach it and have questions they might have. So you can see like this is an example. So like Tasva presented on the Indian New Deal and explains it in a way that like, okay, this kid put this presentation together and they're all coming together to tell this story of multiple nations. And it includes things like you can see on here, like self-determination, tribal activism, economic development. I love the frame of this. And also I love the language that Tracy Sorrell uses and how empowering this is for kid readers. I really do feel, I feel like this is a book that every library should have. And I hope they keep making books like this forever. And We Are Still Here is a really important element of Native American tribal discussions. And the way that it's put in this book is it's just great. So awesome, lovely. Okay, every month, I tell you now, after all those great nonfiction books and thinking about how that means we can reinvigorate and reapproach our nonfiction sections and do some hard weeding so that we have 5 really attractive books and we can build from there. But every month, I also like to tell you about what the newest comics are. And this month, this is Astronaut Academy Splashdown. This is the 3rd title in the Astronaut Academy series by Dave Roman. And Max Meow, Donuts in Danger by John Gallagher. This is the 2nd series in the Max Meow series. Astronaut Academy is, of course, about a group of kids that are in space together, going to school at an astronaut academy and all their misadventures. And Max Meow is about a cat who is a superhero, obviously, need I say more, and his best friend, Mindy, who solve crimes in Kittyopolis. These are they're a little more advanced than they're definitely more advanced than Spring Cakes. They're kind of what our next level comic would be from here. You should think about them with text density along the lines of like Dogman, that same kind of humor, big panels, bold line. They are in a series. They will fly off your shelves at all times. They have that kind of really playful, fun sense of humor, a lot of wordplay, great for our comic fans. Highly recommend both these series. Okay, Great Escapes. This is the 5th in the Great Escape series. We've talked about this before. This is one of 1,000 series that they've created to try to rip off I Survived, which is great because we have 1,000 kids who want to read every I Survived book. So this is the 5th in the series. This one takes place in London in the 1700s, and they are like I Survived. They're based on real historical events, but they also take real historical people. So this is about the very famous escape of Lord Nithsdale, who was a Jacobite, and he escaped from the Tower of London because his wife came in and he switched clothes with her maid and he just walked out because they couldn't imagine that a woman would be smart enough to pull this off. It's one of my favorite historical stories, and it's fun to see it here. So if you have kids that are obsessed with I Survived, one of the things I like about these is these are based on actual historical. It's not just like there was a tsunami. It's like there's a person who survived an actual tsunami. So there's 5 of these to count so far. This is a brand new one, and it's just a series to get on your radar. If you're looking for more of those I Survived kind of series for that reader, it's similar, 128 pages, kind of illustrated throughout. I think this would also be if you have the Who Was fans or the What Was fans, because they are based on real historical events. Oh man. Okay, so this is The Ghosts of Weirdwood, which is the sequel to The Thieves of Weirdwood by Christian McKay Heidecker, who, as an aside, wrote Scary Stories for Small Foxes, which is maybe the weirdest, most aggressively freaky middle grade book I've ever read, and I'm obsessed with it. And this is about Arthur and Wally, who discover the border between the real and imaginary world and become guardians of Weird World. These are amazing. I had such a good time reading these books. He's such a good writer. And it's set in like kind of an alternate Victorian London, 2 thief kids with a ghost sidekick and dragons and monsters kind of discover the line between what's real and what's not real, what's imaginary and not imaginary. Just rip-roaring adventures, just tons of fun to read. I haven't listened to these on audio, but I also bet they would be amazing on audio. And as you can see, he says they're co-written with William Shivering. So they also have that really tone. If you know the Jonathan Stroud books, these are very similar to those, but a little less violent and for kind of a younger reader. And again, Christian McKay Heidecker, he's honestly, I think he dazzles me. His writing dazzles me. I do not say that lightly. First of all, rest in peace, Beverly Cleary, the most significant author of my life, perhaps. This is Ways to Grow Up. It's a Ryan Hart book by Renee Watson. It's illustrated by Nina Matta. It's the 2nd book in the Ryan Hart series. The first is Ways to Make Sunshine. These are very heavily influenced by Beverly Cleary and Ramona. They take place in Portland, Oregon, which is where Renee Watson grew up and loved Beverly Cleary. They have that same Ryan, our main character, is a 4th grader. She's 10 years old. She has that same spirit spirit of I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to, things are maybe hard in my family right now, or I'm expecting a new baby, or I'm going to summer camp, but I'm inventive, I'm creative, I'm a kid with a big heart. These really reminded me of Ramona. And I think it's clear that they were written with that in mind. And Ryan is just the kind of character you love rooting for. And like Ramona, you really feel for her, and her voice is just comes across so great. I loved reading these. I think they would be great read alouds. They're under 200 pages, so they're not too intimidating for kids that are, I don't like long books. I'm not ready for that. They're great transitional to longer chapters. I hope there's a million of these, just like the Ramona books. And I hope we get to follow Ryan through all the changes in her life. So if you're looking for that kind of read aloud or read alike for Ramona, these are just such a perfect homage to her. And of course, it's Renee Watson, who's like, is there literally anybody more talented than Renee Watson? Like, no. Okay, this is Chance to Fly by Ali Stroker and Stacey Davowitz. Ali Stroker is an actress. You might have seen her on Glee. She's also a wheelchair user, and she was the first person to ever appear on the Broadway stage in a wheelchair used for mobility, not as a prop. And she was the first wheelchair user to win a Tony. And you might ask yourself when that happened, and the answer was 2019. So one of the things many of you have heard me talk about before is we need more books about disability by disabled people. And I'm so tired of reading books about people who know somebody with a disability or their kid has a disability. I'm over that. And I think the fact that Ali Stroker, when she was growing up, it might have felt like she could never be on Broadway because she'd never seen anybody who was. But now kids can look at Ali Stroker and say, I can be on Broadway because she was on Broadway. And this is a book about a 13-year-old who is a wheelchair user. Her name is Nat, and she loves Broadway and wants desperately to be on Broadway. And when her family moves to New Jersey, she gets cast in a production of Wicked, and it opens up her musical dreams. So this is also a great book for kids who love musicals, kids, your theater kids, your really dramatic kids. And it gives them a new way to dream about things, and it gives them a new way to think about the world. And again, I just, this is so important. You cannot be what you cannot see, right? So you can have dreams. And I think one of the things I love about this book so much is that, like, here's a dream of mine and it came true, and your dreams can come true too. I think that's so empowering for all kinds of kids readers, but especially disabled kids. So this is Chance to Fly by Ali Stroker and Stacey Davowitz. Sugar and Spite by Gail Villanueva. I've recommended books by her before. This is her second book. Her first book was one of my favorites the year it came out. This is set in the Philippines, and it's about a 12-year-old Jolena who moves, and Claudine, the bully, who is mean to her. And one of the things I loved about this is that Jolena has a moment of weakness, and she uses the magic that she's been learning from her grandfather, the traditional magic that she's been learning from her grandfather, to cast a love spell on Claudine, so that Claudine will become her best friend and not be mean to her anymore. And I loved taking that kind of traditional magic and putting it in this school setting of like a mean girl bully. But what happens? They are become friends, but then like it's all because of magic. So how are we going to get through that? I loved it. As always, I love the way Gail Villanueva, I think she just is so great at mixing in. Like, I felt like I was in the Philippines. I felt like I was like, I love that transportive feel of her writing. I think it's for kids that love like magic and just like that escapism of reading. I think this is such a great title. And then it mixed with the friend, how do we reconcile the mean girl bully? Just an amazing combination. So this is Sugar and Spite by Gail D. Villanueva. And every month I pick a favorite. It doesn't mean it's the best. Yes, it does. It doesn't mean it's the best. It means it's my favorite for that month, one that I think really stood out. And this month, my favorite is Too Bright to See by Kyle Lukoff. This is the kind of book I dreamed about as a kid. It's a ghost story. It's about Bug, the summer before he starts middle school, and his house, as it's set in rural Vermont, and his house has always been haunted. He's always known that, but he thinks this summer there's another ghost. And in the author's note of this, Kyle says, if you tell somebody too much about this book, it kind of ruins it. And I think that that's absolutely true. But one of the things I loved about this is how Kyle incorporated the story of a transgender kid coming to understand who he is and coming out in and being the person that he is, along with this really atmospheric ghost story. None of it ever feels overcrowded or preachy or didactic or about the suffering of being a trans kid. It's an adventure story with a trans kid, and it's very much about a trans kid coming into himself and figuring out who he is in a real classic middle grade situation. This is a masterful book. It's the kind that I've dreamed of existing for so long. It's a really immersive read. It's just outstanding in every way. And I don't want to tell you too much about it because I want you to discover it on your own. But I really love it. And I love it. I can't say anything else other than I love it. I've got to stop saying I love it. It's not really. So next category, number 2, we're doing YA. Also, I mentioned this kind of in passing, but I only go with what's published every month. So like if there's less YA and more middle grade, a lot of that is dependent on what is published per month. And also I don't just recommend every single title. That's not the point of this. I'm here to curate some kind of thing. But if you're like, why don't you include more board books? There might not have been a lot of original board books published, or I might not think anything is outstanding. This is all a way of saying there's not that many YA books this month, but they're all great. So this is The Key to You and Me by J. Robin Brown. I'm obsessed with J. Robin Brown. She's never written a bad book. This is about an adorable love story between Piper and Kat that is set when Piper moves to North Carolina. And her grandmother says, I'll continue to support you in your hobby of riding horses, but you have to learn how to drive. And so she starts taking driving instruction from a local girl, and believe it or not, they fall in love. One of the things I love about J. Robin Brown is that all of her books have these the writing's really great. And also I love the combination of like, okay, it's this like flirty, really cute romance, but also the stories of like, what's it like to like not be sure if you're gay, and to like work on your coming out, and to like not be 100% the most out kid at school. So I think this is a great one for fans of Simon versus the Homo sapien agenda. Just a really kind of cute love story set in North Carolina that also has this other thing about figuring out who you are and standing up for who you are, and understanding that can change. I think that's a real key YA topic. And again, everything by J. Robert Brown, huge recommendation. If you haven't read Georgia Peaches and Other Forbidden Fruit, one of my all-time favorite YA books. Dude. Okay. This is the Infinity Quartz by Kimi Don Bowman. This is like, okay, here's the elevator pitch. Are you ready? This is if Siri went bad and took over the afterlife. That's the elevator pitch. Siri goes rogue and takes over the afterlife, and it ain't great. In this universe, Nami is killed, and she ends up in the after, where Ophelia, who is their version of Siri, has taken over. And Ophelia is not pleased with the way humans talk to her. So she has taken over the afterlife and turned humans into her own personal slaves. And so Nami joins the AI, the resistance to this AI. One of the things Ophelia has done has split the afterlife into these 4 courts, which are victory, famine, war, and death. And they're also run by AI. And they each have like a prince and a ruler who is really removed. And they basically torture humans. And Ophelia is getting ready to take this from the afterlife into the real world and take over the world. So of course the human resistance has to stop her. And one would hope that along the way, Nami does not fall in love with one of the princes of the courts. Or perhaps another boy. It's super great. I love it. Many of you know, this is exactly my jam. This is what I am into. I loved it. I love the take on the afterlife. I love the AI interaction. I'm going to talk about another book that has AI this month. And I also love that kind of, this is a more classic sci-fi kind of, fantasy thriller. Okay. Yeah, many of you know things I'm already drawn to, but I want to say that it's more than just my things that I'm drawn to. I recommend lots of things that wouldn't be my own first pick to read, but that is not the case with this. This is Between Perfect and Real by Ray Stovey, and I'm pretty sure I pronounced their last name right, but I'm sorry if I got it wrong. And this is about Dean, who is in his senior year, and he has been cast as Romeo in the school play. And a lot of this is about him realizing that he is not a butch lesbian, but he is a boy. And being cast as Romeo really allows him to access that. And one of the things I love that the author did in this book, I love the way it talks about how art helps us understand who we really truly are. And again, I love this exploration of, I don't have everything figured out about my life, but I have these people who love me, and I'm gonna figure it out along the way. It also is a great look at how relationships change when you're in your senior year, and how much you're like, I'm gonna graduate, and then everything's gonna be changed. I'll just wait till that. How much of your life do you want to spend waiting? I think there's so much great stuff in this. This is a first novel, and there's a lot of friendship and understanding and defining yourself that I think makes up the hallmarks of the best YA. So I remember I told you about AI. This is the other AI. So this is Chaos on Catnet, which is the sequel to Catfishing on Catnet. Okay, Catfishing on Catnet by Naomi Kritzer. Catfishing on Catnet won basically every award that you can win for YA sci-fi, and this is the companion. And this is basically, Steph spends all of her time in an online forum dedicated to cat pictures and talking about cats, because who doesn't love that? But what she doesn't know is that the moderator of the forum is a sentient artificial intelligence who really just wanted people to send them cat pics, but now has become a benevolent sentient AI. And along the way, when Steph discovers that, and discovers that Catnet is sentient, is a sentient AI known as Cheshire Cat, they solve mysteries together. They take on hackers together. Here's the thing. I love online. I love it. One of my best friends in the world, I talk to him every day, like hours every day. He lives in Toronto. We've hung out like 4 times in person. We've known each other almost 20 years, right? And we talk online all the time. And I love that this book respects and admires the relationships and connections that kids form online. I think it doesn't say like, oh my gosh, everything online is bad and scary. And I think now, especially, that's a message that's really resonant. That being online and connecting that way is real and valid. And then on top of it, there's all these mysteries. So like, who's hacking the message board? And in the first book, she's kind of like, oh my gosh, like they're hiding from her abusive stepfather. And there's like, oh no, what if he finds out about this? It can track him down. I love that the AI in this was not mean. And I love that the consideration of online life is given its full breadth and depth. I think that's something that, especially after this last year, we really want to tell kids that there are different ways to connect with people. There's different ways to form community, and there's different ways to do activism. There's different, and all of that is valid. And I love that. I love that. I think it's the best part of sci-fi. And I loved reading this because for once I felt like I wasn't being talked down to for the fact that one of my best friends lives in Canada and I only get to see him like every couple of years. But that doesn't mean our friendship and our connection isn't valid. And I think that all of that mixed in with this online life thing, it's just so resonant and it's so great. And also, why wouldn't you want cat pics, right? Please send cat pics. This is where this all started, from a story called Please Send Cat Pics. So this is Chaos on Catnet. It's the companion to Catfishing on Catnet. Again, this is a chance to look at bulking up your collection, like bringing up, where's your sci-fi? How's that been refreshed? What readers are really looking for those kind of stories that maybe aren't always addressed by contemporary realistic fiction? So this is Catfishing, Chaos on Catnet by Naomi Kritzer. You also know I'm a sucker for historical fiction. This is The Forest of Stolen Girls by Jane Her. It's set in Korea in 1426. And it's a murder mystery. Literally, it's everything I'm into. I'm into historical fiction that is not all set during World War II. So I love this. I love the setting in Korea in 1426. If you have fans of K-dramas or K-pop, this is going to be a big hit, a big appeal to them. And it is about 2 sisters who've been estranged, who come together to solve their father's disappearance. Their father is a detective who has been investigating mysterious disappearances of girls in the woods. And they decide, okay, like We have been estranged as sisters, but we're going to come together to solve what happened to our dad and also what happened in our own years earlier mysterious disappearance, because yes, it's all connected. Amazing world building on this, mixed in with the mystery. And I love that combination of things. I think it's a real appealing thing to kids who are to different kind of readers. So this is The Forest of Stolen Girls. Oh, okay, back to sci-fi. This is Victory is Greater Than Death by Charlie Jane Anders. Oh, okay, this is like everything you want. This is like found family, spaceship adventures, different worlds, rebel crew. Okay, so the main character in this lives on Earth. Her name is Tina. She's known forever that she is the genetic clone of a galactic hero. And when the time comes and she has to leap into the time will come that she will be called into service. And the moment that happens, she'll become the most powerful person in the galaxy, but also one of the most hunted. And she can't wait. She hates Earth. She cannot wait to blow this popsicle stand. But what happens when that actually starts the action, that the beacon goes off and she is called into this, is that it is much more complicated than she ever expected. And along the way, she makes her best friend from Earth comes with her. And along the way, they create this starship family. This is classic sci-fi. I loved this take on the chosen one trope. It's the first in a series. This is Charlie Jane Anders, who I'm obsessed with, her writing. This is her YA debut. And it is the exact kind of swashbuckling space opera, found family, ragtag crew adventure that so many readers are going to be drawn to. Victory is Greater Than Death. What if you were the chosen one and you couldn't wait for it to start and then it got scary right away? Love it. The Cost of Knowing by Brittany Morris. So this is set in Chicago, and the main character in it, Alex, has recently discovered that he has the ability to, when he touches objects or people, to see their future. And the cost of knowing is what happens when he touches his 12-year-old brother, Isaiah, and can see that he is going to be killed. And he immediately, obviously he's going to do anything to prevent that from happening. And I loved the mix of this. I've heard this described as Dear Martin meets They Both Die at the End. And I loved that mix of contemporary life for a Black boy in Chicago with that fantasy element of, if you were able to see the future, what things would you do and how would you come to understand that? I love that mix. I think it's going to really attract a wide variety of readers, the readers who really are into contemporary, but also readers who might like more of that speculative sci-fi. I think it's going to have a really wide audience. And I really love the fullness it grants to Black lives. And it was like a hard but super compelling read. And my favorite for this month is two. I couldn't choose. So my two favorites this month are YA nonfiction. And you have heard me say this before, and I want to stress it again. Please remember that you have kids that want to read nonfiction. And these are two YA nonfictions that I think are so relevant and urgent and important right now, but also compulsively readable. They're going to draw in an entirely different kind of reader to your library. And you don't have to have 800 shelves of YA nonfiction, but there is a group of kids who are ages 12 to 18, and they don't want to read about mysteries in Korea. They don't want to read about spaceships. They want to read about the real world. And they're important readers too. And so my first YA favorite this month. Both of these titles have Midwest connections. And the first one is From a Whisper to a Rallying Cry, The Killing of Vincent Chin and the Trial That Galvanized the Asian American Movement. And this is based on the true murder. This is the true murder, not based on, it's a nonfiction book, so it is true. In Detroit in 1982 of Vincent Chin, who was beat to death after a bar fight by two white men. He was Chinese American, and they were angry. They were auto plant workers, and they were angry that Japanese manufacturing was stealing their jobs. And what was a simple bar fight turned into them viciously murdering Vincent Chin. And what happened next was that they were found guilty of involuntary manslaughter and sentenced to probation. And this verdict galvanized the Asian American movement, and it really sprung up in response to this in a really loud and and vocal way across the country. And I love the way that Paula Yu puts this into context for teen readers. It's very empowering. It's also very clear-eyed, and I think it's more relevant than ever. And I think this is a book that really gives teen readers the tools to look at anti-Asian racism that's happening all around them and say, what can we do? And how is this conversation still happening from 1982 and earlier? And how can we get involved in that? And I love the idea that it's a rallying cry. I think there's so much in this about what each of us can do in our lives. I had known about the murder of Vincent Chin, but many people do not. And I love the context that she puts in it, the historical detail. This is just a book, I think, it's inspiring, it's frustrating, it's galvanizing. I think galvanizing in the title, perfect title. Really a book that I think that will be with me always. And Everything You Wanted to Know About Indians, But Were Afraid to Ask, by Dr. Anton Troyer, who is a professor at the University of Bemidji. I think I got that right. Did I get it right? I'm sure you'll all tell me in the chat if I got it wrong. And also a professor of Ojibwe. This is an adaptation of his adult title, but it is also like one of the most informative books I've ever read. It's created in question and answer format. It covers everything from activism to law to cultural traditions to every possible thing you could want to know, every question you could want to know. It's highlighted throughout without photographs. And it is an amazing history of Indigenous communities, but also I think the format that it's in for teens, again, really empowering, that question and answer format. There's just so much good stuff in this. I learned so much from it, but also it's very readable because of the question and answer format, and the way Dr. Troyer writes is really engaging and immediate. I know you will learn something that you did not know if you read this book, and I also know that when you read it, you will want to share it, which I think is one of the best things I can say about any books. So let's get to picture books and board books. Okay, this is Moi Moi. It is from the University of Tokyo Baby Lab. It's a board book, and it is literally, they have done studies that these images make babies stop crying. Okay, this is a thing in Japan. Okay, Japanese parents have bought over 500,000 copies of these Moi Moi books. This is what it looks like. And yes, it's supposed to be koi. It rhymes with moi, but they also say you can change how you pronounce it. And so literally the guy who edited this book, he's a doctor, he's a professor at the Baby Lab. It's Dr. Kazuo Hiraki. He says, this is the first book that babies wrote themselves because he based it on actual images, abstract images that babies responded to that made them stop crying. Koi, koi, moi, koi, koi. I love it. I'm obsessed with it. I personally want to stop crying. Okay, here's the thing. You might not use this in story time, but this is another thing that you can use as, here's a book that I can suggest to adults and caregivers that I can talk to them about, that I can show them that I'm an expert in this kind of thing. I really enjoyed this book. I also think it's the kind of thing that really allows us to open up conversations about what librarians can do and the services that we can provide. It's also super cute. Okay, I never do this. There's more. I put another one. I'm obsessed with this. This is also very much my jam. In case you didn't know, this is very much my style. Okay, I never do this. This is a book that came out late last month and I didn't get to recommend it, and I'm recommending it now because I'm obsessed with it. It's about the dignity of labor, which is a thing that's very important to me. But also, my Iowa friends, it has a ton of stuff about wind turbines in it and making wind turbines. I've never seen a book that has this. And so it says, a scientist earns a degree in physics and ecology. He aims towards cleaner energy, but someone works to tighten bolts. Someone works to tighten bolts, steer the crane, and drive machines. Someone needs to raise the tower. Someone needs to build the dream. And that's what this whole book is about. It's about how everybody has dreams, plans, and creations, but someone has to actually put in the labor to make those dreams happen. So this is also very construction focused, which I think there's going to be a lot of kids who love that, but it's also about the inherent dignity and power of work. And as the grandchild of a coal miner and a railway agent, men who did hard labor their whole lives, it really resonated with me. And I loved, you can see even on the back cover, we see the turbines. And that to me was so Iowa. I had to say something about this. And it's very beautiful, and it's written in rhyme. This is Hello Rain by Kyle McClure. It's illustrated by Chris Turnham. It's just a super cute, bold, adorable rain book. We love weather books. We can never get enough of those for story time. The air is full of waiting. The sky is full of breeze. The trees gust and billow all before it rains. Rumble, rumble, distant thunder. Rain is coming. Rain is coming. Note the repeated refrain, the great onomatopoeia. Every rainfall plays a different tune. Listen, listen. Rain, rain, rain. Again, plink, plunk, plank on the rooftop. The real rich language, the onomatopoeia of language. Love this one. Look at the way they did the umbrella here. Green, orange, yellow, blue. Let's go outside. Old raincoat, rubber boots, big umbrella, best umbrella. Not too complicated text. A lot of the process of getting ready for rain. Can never get enough weather books. And this is certainly an outstanding one. Okay. So this is, I really want to call your attention to this whole series. This is a series called Storytelling Math of picture books from Charles Bridge. This is the latest entry in it. It's Bracelets for Beenas' Brother. It looks at patterns, which are an element of math, as you all know. It's by Rajani La Raka and Shaya Prabhat. And it is about a girl who's making bracelets for her brothers for a Hindu festival where sisters celebrate their brothers. But along the way, it also looks at how she creates patterns based on their favorite colors. It's super cute. And also everything in this series, this storytelling math series, is amazing. The way it talks about patterns, more than, less than. There's a series of Grace Lynn board books about shapes and colors. Everything in this storytelling math series, it's really amazing. The way that it incorporates a story, in this case, the story about this Hindu holiday and how this main character learns about her brothers, the way it incorporates the story along with the math concepts, which are everything from more or less or shapes or patterns, just really outstanding. So I want to recommend this whole series, but this one especially from Rajani Laraka. It's super cute. It's a great brother-sister story. And I think there's a lot, like you could build programs around all of this too, like the making of the bracelets. It has really a lot of cross-program connections. Dandelion Magic, Go Ahead, Make Your Wish by Darren Farrell, illustrated by Maya Tatsukawa. I'm sorry about that. I should have practiced that more. This is an interactive book. It's really dorky and cute. And it basically asks you like, okay, think really hard. We're going to blow the dandelion. What's he going to be? You turn the page and it's like, why did you wish he would turn into a pineapple? So for fans of press here, if you're looking for kind of that interactive thing that you can really build the dialectal reading where you talk with the kids, it also has a really cool grandma character in it. So there's a lot of dialogue and conversation in this one. Here's My Soulmate, Bad Cat. By Nicole O'Byrne. This is, I can't stop looking at the cat. This is another one. If you like, it's a don't let the pigeon drive the bus kind of fun kind of thing where you're going to interact with kids about the bad things the cat is doing and should the bad cat keep doing the bad things? And the answer is, heck yeah, Fluffykins should keep doing bad things. I, as a kid, don't get to do bad things. So I want to see that cat do bad things. Also, this is the look that I'm making in my heart like 90% of the time. I love the illustrations in this along with the real simple. Again, it really gives you that chance to interact with kids. So that don't let the pigeon drive the bus. We do not eat our classmates, that kind of bad animal format, and the illustrations, gotta love them. This is You Be Daddy by Carla Clark, illustrated by Steph Liu. It is a companion to You Be Mommy. And I love everything about this, but one of the things I love about it is it follows with, Daddy had a very long day. So Daddy is saying, can you be daddy and kiss me goodnight? Daddy's too tired to be daddy tonight. And of course, our small character is more than happy to be daddy. I like a lot about this book, but one of the things I really like about it and You Be Mommy is that it focuses on so much stuff that parents and kids do together during the day. So there's other things they do, like they play video games and they do a barbecue and and then it goes through the routines of bedtime. So I know adults are often looking for books that kind of go through that. And I really love like the contemporary current feel of it, along with that kind of sweet reassurance reassuring winding down bedtime thing. And, you know, you could even turn that into like, can you be daddy tonight? Can you help? Can you be mommy tonight? So I think that this kind of book we get asked for a lot, but it's also really super cute. And you could do a whole story time about daddies, and you do a story time about bedtime, story time about the things we do together, about kids and grownups. Doesn't just have to be daddies, and use this book as part of that. So can you be daddy, which goes with can you be mommy? Oh man, every person I know has cried when they've seen this book, and why wouldn't they? So this is I Sang You Down from the Stars by Tasha Spillett Sumner, illustrated by our 2021 Caldecott winner, Michaela Goad. And it is a lullaby, a prayer, a welcome song to a new baby. The illustrations in it, as per usual, brilliant, beautiful, wonderful. So the author, Tasha Spillett Sumner, is a poet. She's Cree and Trinidadian, and it follows a lot of her traditions. And I have said over and over, even just the beginning of it, I loved you before I met you, before I held you in my arms. I sang you down from the stars. And one of the illustration notes throughout is this whoosh, they call it, and it goes through everything we do. As I searched for your eyes in the sky, I saw a shooting star. I followed it to a fluffy white eagle plume. I held on to it. The first gift in that bundle will be yours. The illustrations, the community, most everybody I've shared this book with has cried. I think this is an amazing book for a first story time. I think it's a great book for families. This is kind of one of those classic of us together books. When you hold this stone from the river, remember that the land carries stories, and so do you. You can obviously tell this was written by a poet. It has that real cadence to it. Certainly one of the most beautiful books I've seen this year. I think it's going to be a classic. The Little Things by Christian Trimmer, illustrated by Kaylani Juanita. And this is a longer book. This is another one that I think would make a really great non-traditional story walk choice. And it follows a classic story that you might have heard. But another thing that really Iowa specific to me about it, it's very much about a community recovering from a big storm, and how that community, through acts of small kindness, realizes that they can all help each other a little bit, and that little bit can be something really great. And it also has these illustrations by Kaylani Juanita. She is a superstar. I love her detail. I love the originality of her characters. And it starts with the classic story of a little girl throwing sea stars back into the sea. And some of you might have heard this story before. So after the storm, a young girl is throwing the sea stars back into the sea. And she says, there's so many. What's the point? You won't save them all. You can't save them all, but I can save this one. And from this, the old man admits that she has a point. So he saves one, and then that act of kindness carries on. And he goes to the shelter with his grandson to adopt one dog. And his grandson says, there's so many dogs here. What difference is adopting one going to make? The boy looked around. There were many animals who needed rescuing after the storm. Taking home one dog isn't going to make much of a difference. But guess what? It's going to mean a lot to that one dog. And by this way, the act of kindness ripples throughout their community as they do one thing, and they realize that making a difference to one person matters. And then they come back together at the end, and you find at the end, they're all tossing stars back into the sea. And again, I'm here to clean up your garden. It might not make a difference to every house, but that one act of kindness, it multiplies. So the way that it multiplies, and also the way that it turns into community-wide. Again, I think this would be a great, it's a little bit longer. I think it would be a great, this cumulative tale, this idea of community works together. I think it would be a great choice for a story walk book, but I also think it's a perfect book for building a longer story time on, and on a story time that might have projects about kindness or something that you're building on with that's a community-focused story time. Love it, love it, love it. And my favorite picture book of the month, Your Mama. You know the end of that? Your Mama. This is Your Mama by Noniqua Ramos, illustrated by Jacqueline Alcantara. And it takes the classic Yo Mama joke form and turns it into a love letter to mothers. The illustrations, the examples of motherhood as something contemporary, vibrant, strong, stressful, and beautiful, while being put in the Yo Mama format. Y'all, it couldn't be perfect. So this is Noniqua Ramos's picture book debut, and it is a stunner on every level. And the illustrations from Jacqueline Alcantara. Let's just take a look. Let's just take a look. So as you know, Yo Mama jokes start off with Your Mama So, and what they do in the format to the way they twist it, brilliant. Your mama so strong, she like a Marine. Up 3 flights of stairs, carries the groceries. When you both had that fever, carried you to emergency. Also look at the design. Your mama dressed so fine, she could have her own clothing line. When she walks into a room, shoo, she's an ad for fancy perfume. Nobody could walk in her high-heeled shoes. Which is good, because that's why you couldn't help messing with the makeup she keeps in her purse. You want to look just like her, but your mama's so forgiving, she lets you keep on living. I love it. I love it. I love the engaging text, the way they put on the text there in the form. I say, sometimes, I want to know how many of you maybe relate to this. Sometimes your mama's cray cray, but she's going to be okay. She can get her hair done another day. I mean, it's been years since she has gone to the bathroom on her own or heard anything anybody's saying on the phone. Wouldn't it be nice to have couches that weren't trampolines? Hey, a mama can dream, but she wouldn't change a thing. My emotions, my human emotions. Your mama a brainiac, mo better than any app. A drone, she'll teach you how to work it from her phone. Got math problems, she could solve them. Plus, you're both library VIPs because she knows everything about everything. She's your A-team. So that rhyme in it, the mama who's cool, fun, young, there's your mama so woke, she stands up for what she believes in. Your mama's so sweet, and they bake together. Everything in this, I love it. I think it's funny. It's fun to read. It's a great way to engage kids in conversations about Yo Mama. I loved it. I knew I was going to like it, but the details, the illustrations, look at her boots, man. Look how cool she looks. Like, I love that idea of like, I just loved everything about it. Again, I'm back to just helplessly saying love, love, love. I just really loved it. And it filled me with this kind of warmth, appreciation, closeness that we're really looking for in the best titles that we build around. So this is Yo Mama. And believe it or not, we came in almost close on time. I cut a couple books so I could do that, and I wasn't gasping. Sam, how did it do? So this is Your Mama by Noniqua Ramos, illustrated by Jacqueline Alcantara. These are my tips and tricks roundup. I would love to hear from you in the chat. I would love to hear which titles you're excited about. I would love to hear if some of you have already seen these. If you love them, I would just love to hear back from you as per usual. We will send you a survey though. These are some of our tips and tricks. I hope you got some ideas about weeding. I want to also go with building strategically. I always recommend that at this point. We really want you to think about ways that you can build your collection strategically. I know nobody has limitless money. So you might say, you know what, I really do want to focus on the animal books. Now is the time to spotlight new stuff. You can put them in book bundles. You can share them on social media. You have a lot of different ways to reach people with new titles. And I really want you to think about like ways that you can be like, okay, I can put those animal books together in a bundle. I can build a program around kindness. I can do this whole YA section that's just on sci-fi. I can really promote YA nonfiction. I can let people know YA fiction nonfiction exists from a rallying cry to everything you wanted to know about Indians, but we're never afraid to ask. You can tell people, hey, did you know there is nonfiction for 12 to 18? And if you have that kid that their whole life, all they ever wanted to read was nonfiction, and now he's in 10th grade and he doesn't want to read anymore, did you know there's nonfiction written just for him? Really think about ways that you can do that. And I think there's a lot of elements of this. I want you to think bigger than just this is a list of books to buy, and think about ways that it can inform the outreach that you do, the everything that goes with it. But speaking of just having a list of books to buy, as per usual, here is the list of all the titles I talked about. These don't have the ISBNs, but many of you requested this, so you can print these out and highlight the ones you want. However, we are recording this. It will be posted to the State Library's YouTube page, so you'll be able to revisit, and you will get a link to the slide deck. Sam, what other details am I forgetting?
I have nothing else to add.
Okay, friends, we'll do this again next month. What do you think? As always, this is my reminder to you. This is where I give you your little pep talk part that you all like and is important to hear. You are doing amazing. You are doing great. I know that you all feel overwhelmed. I know that you feel that you are bailing out a boat in a hurricane, but your mama, I want you to think about that Your Mama panel. You are doing great. Someday you'll get a chance to have a couch that's not a trampoline, but you're doing amazing. And I want you to know that the fact that you care about this, the fact that you're invested in collection development, the fact that you want your collection to be better, all of that matters. And it means so much. So I always close with a picture. And so I'm closing with a picture of my mama. That's my mama. I got to see her again after 16 months. Thank you, science. That's us in New Mexico there. So I've closed with a picture of my mama. See how I structured it? I'm very clever. This is my contact information. Please feel free to get in touch with me. Like I said, I might not always respond, but I'm so glad that we all get to come and have these conversations. I'm so glad that we engage in this. I'm so glad that you want to know what's new. I'm so glad that you're interested in taking risks and finding out new titles and expanding your collection and understanding why this is important. Thank you so much for coming. Sam, did I forget anything? I said everything.
You said everything. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you soon. Sam is next month open in
yeah. Yep.